Alright, and before we go and use this little audio file and drag it onto an audio channel here, I just want to point out by default, Ableton loads up a blank new project file with 120 BPM. So this is our default tempo, and we can obviously change it, or the default tempo will also change if your first file has a different tempo. Alright, just quickly pointing out that we are starting our project by default at 120 beats per minute. This is the default tempo of Ableton when you first launch it. Now, when loading your first piece of audio into the project, Ableton might adjust your overall tempo according to the sample you're loading in. So if I'm taking my little drum loop here, PML drum loop number 1, and I'm loading it onto an audio track, you see, Ableton adjusts our project tempo to 105 beats per minute because this sample, this piece of audio, actually runs at 105 BPM, beats per minute. So this is very handy if you start out with Ableton, and the next file you're loading in won't change the tempo anymore. But of course you can also change the tempo by yourself just by clicking into the tempo field and typing in your preferred tempo. Okay, let's play this clip on this audio track here. Hit this little play knob. Now, as you can see, we have a drum loop here and it's repeating. When it's finished here, it just goes back to the start and plays again. And that's due to the fact that loop is activated here by default if our drum loop is long enough. Now, as we're in our session view here, which is usable for live looping and idea creation, let's quickly go back to our little folder, PML sound files, and load in another piece of audio, our PML plug loop, and put this one on audio track number 4. I'm just dragging it over and then letting it drop. And now we can play this one along to the drum loop. And since this one is already activated, if I'm playing this one, both will play at the same time. Now, as saw, we have a little bit of clipping here. We're a bit too loud, so let's bring down both of these channels a little bit in the overall gain, which is done down here in our volume fader. I'm just bringing it down to -12 here. And this one as well, roughly. So I'm bringing down this fader to around -6, -7, and I'm doing the same thing with this one here as well. And now we can play them both together by hitting spacebar, or also by hitting this play button here, or by hitting one of those play buttons. And I can also stop single clips here by clicking on one of these stop buttons here, or the global stop button for anything happening on such a channel down here. So if we play it back, hitting the spacebar. So you see, when I hit the stop button over here, then at the next bar, rhythmically speaking, it will stop the playback. And the same thing is true for hitting the play button. If I'm already playing one loop and I want to play the other one along, that thing will wait until the next bar where the rhythm actually makes sense and the other sample can join in perfectly matching with the first sample. So let's quickly demonstrate what I just talked about. I'm playing back the first one and then I'm trying to join in with the second one at a rhythmically nice position, but it will happen automatically. Okay, so this is basically how live looping and idea generation with samples would work in Ableton's session view. Okay, and before we figure out how to get our elements into the arrangement view, let's quickly load up our second drum loop with a little bit more action and put that one onto the drum loop channel, but into the second position. So I'm dragging this, holding the mouse, dragging it over here, leaving the mouse, and now we have two drum loops here, and we can switch back and forth between this one and that one while playing back everything. So let's start with this one and add in our plugs. And now I'm switching back and forth between those two drum loops by just playing the play button. Alright, this is perfect for generating ideas. If you want to try different drums on something you want to play with your instruments, you can just check all of that over here. And then once you've found something you actually want to use, you can go over and arrange your song. And that's where you're going to the arrangement view.